In this video, I'm going to walk you through some information for your Common Core State Standards assignment. I realize that many of you teach other areas than English Language Arts or Mathematics, which is what our Common Core State Standards are. But the purpose of this assignment is for you to integrate one of those areas into whatever subject that you teach. And we're going to go through a couple of examples for you, and there are several more examples in the Week 1 folder on Blackboard. The first thing I want to look at is the template for your assignment. You'll see that it says Common Core State Standards Assignment, Lesson Plan Information. When you begin your lesson plan for this class, I would suggest that you use the standard that you have used here. You've already researched it, you've already read about it, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you to get a starting point for your lesson plan. So as you're choosing your standard and your subject area, keep that in mind. Okay, you need to make sure you put your name. You need to make sure you put the grade level that this assignment is for. If you teach multiple grade levels, let's say you teach 9th and 10th grade, you can put 9-10, or you can just specify 9th grade or 10th grade. You need to put the subject area that you teach. You need to put the topic of your lesson. You need to put the Common Core State Standard for your lesson, and we'll talk in a little bit about how to write that nomenclature for the standard, and that's what I want you to put there. And then your rationale for choosing this standard for this lesson. Okay, give me just a minute. I'm going to switch around here. The first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to go to the Common Core State Standards. There are lots of websites out there dealing with the Common Core, but you need to make sure that you're going to the official Common Core website, and that is got my caps lock on. CoreStandards.org is the website you'll need to go to access the standards. Once you get to that website, you'll see that there on the home page there, you can learn why it's important, you can explore the Common Core, and you can understand how the Common Core was created. I would encourage you to go through some of this information, familiarize yourself with it. Some of you may already have knowledge of Common Core. There are also several videos in the Week 1 folder that will help you to better understand the Common Core. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to be looking at how to find what standard you're going to use and how to write that standard in your assignment. Okay, so you'll need to go here where it says Explore the Common Core. You'll click on Read the Standards. Once you click on that, it will bring up the English Language Arts Standards and the Mathematics Standards. And for our first example, we're going to be looking at the English Language Arts Standards. So when you click on that, it will take you to the ELA or English Language Arts page. There is an option here to download the standards and save them on your computer or your device. You can also print the standards once you pull them up. I wouldn't recommend that because they are very lengthy. Okay, over here on the right-hand side, what you'll see is an introduction to the standards, the anchor standards, and those are the standards that go from kindergarten to 12th grade. The standard is the same throughout those grades. Of course, it looks different at kindergarten than it does at 12th grade, but the idea is when children are in kindergarten, they're working toward this standard throughout their whole schooling career. So I'm just going to click on that for a moment. And you'll see that there are college and career readiness standards, anchor standards for reading, college and career readiness anchor standards for writing, college and career readiness anchor standards for speaking and listening, and for language. So let's just click on the anchor standard for reading. And if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see that it's broken down into different sections. The first one, the first Common Core College Readiness Standard is read closely to determine what the text says explicitly and to make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking to support conclusions drawn from the text. That standard goes from, it's the same in kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. But, of course, it looks very different at kindergarten than it does at 12th grade. And every year you'll see a progression working toward this standard. So by the time they graduate high school, they should have mastered this standard, doing different pieces and parts of it all along the way during their schooling career. Okay, I just wanted to give you an idea about those college and career readiness standards. But what you're going to be looking at for your lesson is going to be the grade level standards for the area that you choose. After your anchor standards, there is reading literature, reading informational text, reading foundational skills, which is only K-5. The idea is that by 5th grade, students have mastered these standards and they do not need to work on those anymore. You have standards for writing, for speaking and listening, for language, and Standard 10 has to do with the complexity of text and the ranges of text that students should be reading. Now, once you move into 6th grade, there's a separate set of standards specifically for literacy in history and social studies, science, and technical subjects, and it's broken down here below. For this example that we're going to use, we're going to be looking at a writing standard. I'll bring this assignment up. You'll see that this assignment is a 7th through 12th grade because this is an East Lab classroom, and she has students from various grade levels that are in there at the same time. The topic for her lesson is using technology in writing, and what you see highlighted is what we call the nomenclature for the standard, and that's just the abbreviated way of writing the name of the standard. So you can see that hers is CCSS Literacy W 1112-6. And what that means is Common Core State Standards. This is a literacy standard, a writing standard. This is 11th and 12th grade, and it's Standard 6 underneath the writing standards. Okay, so we're going to go into writing. We're going to go into 11 and 12. As you'll see here, she has 11 and 12th grade for this particular lesson, and she has standard number 6. So when we get here, we'll look for 11 through 12, standard 6, which is right here. This is the nomenclature that she has written. Once you click on that, it will tell you exactly what that standard looks like for 11th and 12th grade. And it says you're going to use technology, including the internet, to produce, publish, and update individual or shared writing products in response to ongoing feedback, including new arguments or information. So that is the standard that she has chosen to work toward with her lesson. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bigger. You can see that she has that exact same wording here. So I would like for you to put the nomenclature for your standard, but to also write out what the standard says. Okay, in her rationale for the standard, she outlines that it says it's a different animal when it comes to traditional pedagogy because East Lab has a different concept. Its philosophy lies in self-directed, project, and service-oriented learning. Common Core State Standards are working to integrate learning of core subjects throughout each subject, and East's learning style has been proven effective when correlated with core subjects. So this is where she goes into why she has chosen this standard. Literacy should be taught in every subject and is necessary for every job, project, or interaction a student will have. Effective design presentation must not only be appealing to the eye, but must be logical and coherent. This lesson plan will aid students in gaining technical knowledge and applying core literacy principles. So the students, while working with technology and presentations, will integrate this standard. So that gives you an idea of an example for the ELA standards. I'm going to back out of this and get back to our page. Now we're going to look at the math standard. Okay, the math lesson that I've chosen as my example is a 10th grade lesson. The subject area is geometry. The topic is to use trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem to solve applied and real-world problems. The Common Core State Standards that they have chose for this lesson. You can see here, this is the nomenclature, and in just a minute we'll pull up the standard and we'll discuss what all of this means. Of course, CCSS is Common Core State Standards. This is math, content, and we'll talk about the rest of this once I pull up the standard. Okay, so we're going to go into our math standards, and you'll see that at the top they're broken down into grade levels. Once you get past 8th grade, they're broken down into different subjects or areas of mathematics. So we know this is a high school geometry lesson, so I'm going to click on high school geometry, and that is what the HSG in the nomenclature stood for. And this is going to be similarity, right triangles, and trigonometry, and that's what the SRT in their nomenclature stood for. So we're going to click on that one, and it brings up the standards just like in the ELA standards. If you look back at my example, you can see it's high school geometry, SRT, and then C8. So let's look, C8 is right here. It's exactly the same nomenclature that they have written on their lesson. Once you click on that, it'll bring up the standard. And this is the standard right here that they've chosen. You can see the nomenclature there is the same. The standard says to use trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem to solve right triangles in applied problems. So that is what they have chosen to work toward in their lesson, the standard they've chosen to work toward. Okay, so I've pulled my lesson back up. You can see that the Common Core nomenclature and the standard written out here are exactly as they appeared in the Common Core state standards that we just looked at. Now we'll look at their rationale for choosing this Common Core state standard for their lesson. It says, I chose this because these are problems that are commonly found on college entrance or assessment exams like the ACT or the SAT. For students involved in the trade world, for example, architecture and welding, these are important principles. This lesson will start with a formative assessment on the trig ratios and Pythagorean theorem alone. It is supposed that students already have a mastery of this because this lesson builds on it. However, some may not. It will then translate to applied problems on paper once taught how to use trig ratios and Pythagorean theorems in tandem. After the applied practice is mastered, we will move on to real-world scenarios. So you can see how that Common Core standard fits in with the lesson that they are going to teach. Okay, I hope that walking through these lessons has given you an idea of how to do this assignment. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know and I'll try to help you with those. Again, in the Week 1 folder, there are numerous other examples from different content areas to help you. So make sure you look at those. There should be one for your area in there, and if there's not and you're struggling, please let me know.